What's going on? It's your boy Lazy Lightsaber back at it again for another one, and today we had a Nintendo Direct. That's right, folks, a Nintendo Direct. So let's skip over all the BS and jump right into it. No intro needed. And we're gonna start off with the biggest news first, instead of like those other channels that start off with the little news and then they build up. No, you came here for the real deal, so that's what we're gonna do today. Don't forget to follow your boy at Lazy Lightsaber on Twitter, and the same thing for TikTok as well. So let's jump right into it. The huge thing that I think everybody was waiting for was the Nintendo 64 stuff and the Sega stuff. Yes, so let's jump right into it. So today it was announced that Nintendo 64 games like Zelda Ocarina of Time, you've heard that right, and Mario 64 are coming to the Nintendo Switch online service expansion pass. That's what they're calling it. And that comes with Sega games, like Sega classic games as well from the Sega Genesis. And you can actually get a Sega Genesis controller for your Switch. Now, I don't care who you are, that's pretty cool. And you can also get a 64 controller for your Nintendo Switch as well. That controller, to me, at that time was pretty awesome. I know a lot of people don't like that controller, but I actually liked it. I liked that you can switch positions with it, you know, grab it two on this side or grab two on this side. I thought that was actually pretty cool. I know a lot of people don't like it, but now trying to look back at it and trying to go back to that, for me, is not a good idea. So I'm probably gonna play these games using my Switch Pro controller. I feel like that is the better choice just for all around gameplay. But the Sega controller is pretty cool. But yes, it finally happened. I think we've all wanted this to happen. I'm sure there's some people that wanted newer games, like maybe on a GameCube, but hey, step by step with Nintendo, unfortunately. But they gave it to us, what we've been crying for. Nintendo 64 games, like Win Back. I remember playing that game back on the 64, back in the 90s. I mean, so it's super awesome that those good games and Majora's Mask is coming as well. It's not coming out on release day, I think, but it's coming later in the year, but they have confirmed that they show footage and everything. So that's pretty interesting. That game, though, was a game that I didn't give it a chance. I'm just gonna say the truth. I didn't like it when I first started playing it. So because of that, I didn't give it a chance at all. So I'm definitely interested in going back just to see how that game plays and to see if I can give it a second chance to see if it's something that I would actually enjoy. Now, Ocarina of Time, that game is definitely a banger. Probably the second best Zelda game that's ever existed, in my opinion. I thought when that game came out, it was the best game, period. It wasn't until just recently, about 4 years ago, when Breath of the Wild came out, that kind of got crowned to me as the best Nintendo game, period. I mean, definitely the best game invented to date, for me, in my opinion, is Zelda Breath of the Wild. So just to get some of that Zelda flavor back on top of all the Zelda games that we already have is super awesome on the Switch. So let's go ahead and talk about the list of, I guess, first wave games. I'm hoping that it's past where Nintendo has released SNES games, and they had a pretty good chunk of them out. But for the first wave, it's going to be Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Star Fox 64, banger, Yoshi Stories, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Win Back, Covert Operations, banger, Dr. Mario 64, I don't really care about that. Sin and Punishment, I don't remember that game. I may have never played it. And Mario Tennis 64, another banger that's coming out as well. And the future ones that have been shown but are not going to come out, I guess, on the first day are going to be Banjo-Kazooie, Pokemon Snap, Majora's Mask, Kirby 64, Crystal Shards, Mario Golf, Paper Mario, and F-Zero X. So this expansion pass is going to bring a lot of good games from the past back to current gen free to play. Now, they didn't say the price. They did say that would come later this year. So that's kind of upsetting because I wanted to know what the cost would be now. I hope it doesn't go up too much north of $20, right? Maybe $30, an extra $10 for the 64 games. Like, you cannot come in here charging 60 bucks or something like that. Like, you're not, this is not Game Pass. I'm sorry, it's just not. And if they do charge that much, I think they'll be leaving a bad taste on people's mouths. Like, really, you're charging this much for this? And I would have to make a choice right then and there if this is something that I would want to pursue, if it's like 60 or 70 bucks or something like that, or maybe even 50 would be a tolerable for me. Like, this needs to be max 30, 35. If it's something more expensive than that, just for what you're getting, I don't think it's that good. Or maybe I could get like maybe like a couple of months just to try it out, and then just kind of say, you know what, it's not for me. Or I played all these games already. I already played them realistically. So, I mean, sure, I would like to go back and play Ocarina of Time and win back, but is it really something that I would really want to pay 50 bucks for when I can use those same 50 bucks to get a new game like Metroid Dread or Bayonetta 3, which I'm actually not going to get that game. There was huge hype on that game. Sorry, just I'm kind of everywhere right now. But that game was announced as well. Bayonetta 3, yes, it was announced for 2022. There was a lot of hype for that game, and I don't get it. I saw it for the first time. I've never played that style of game. I guess I thought it was something different, and it's not my thing. It's just really not something that I'm going to be buying. I'm not interested at all. When I first saw it, I thought it was in Astro Chain Part 2, like a second chapter, because it showed that little fluffy dog with the girl wears the costume with the tongue sticking out. I was like, oh my gosh, is this Astro Chain 2? And then I got disappointed because I saw what it really was. And then I found out that what that is really not something that I would even consider buying. Hype for the people that do like that game, but for me, it's just hot garbage. I'm probably gonna take a lot of heat for that, but that game just is not my thing. To me, it just looks the furthest thing that I would want to play, and I'm not gonna even buy it or give it a chance. So I'm just gonna keep it 100 with you guys. That is not something that I'm gonna be doing on this channel. It's just not a game that I like. So if a lot of you got turned off by me saying those comments, I'm sorry. We're still Switch fans here. We're still Nintendo fans, so we can talk about a whole bunch of other things that came out. So now that we've covered the 64 portion of that, there's a second portion to that same expansion pack. It's the Sega expansion pack. Yes, classic Sega games are coming to the Switch. Dude, this is the biggest news, like between 64 and Sega Genesis Classics just being on the Switch, I think was the biggest thing that they could have come out with. Yes, they try to save the Bayonetta 3 towards the end of the video, but of the direct, but to me that was the kind of the lowest point. I'm happy, like I said, for the people that did like it, but it just wasn't my thing. So, but they're bringing Sega Genesis classic games, all right, to the Nintendo Switch. I mean, that to me was pretty impressive. So let's go over those games and talk about what they got going on. Okay, so for the Genesis collection, to start off, the games are going to include Castlevania Bloodlines, Contra, Hardcore, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Eco Dolphin, Golden Axe, Gunstar Heroes, Phantasy Star, Ristar, Shining Force, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, awesome game, Streets of Rage 2, awesome game, Musha, Phantasy Star 4, Shinobi 3, and Strider. So a lot of you that don't know, I actually went from the first Nintendo to the Sega Genesis to the 64, so I never had a SNES. A lot of people did have it. I chose to go the Sega Genesis route. I liked it more. It was more, I don't know, it just appealed to me more than a SNES. And so I can relate to a lot of these games that are coming back out now for the Nintendo Switch. Again, they're selling a Sega Genesis controller for $49.99, so it's gonna be $50 for tax, blah, 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 blah. That's a little expensive for that control, so I'm gonna wait. Maybe Black Friday's coming right on the corner. Maybe I could get like a deal for it, pay a little cheaper, maybe like $30 would be a lot more, you know, a lot better for my wallet. Or maybe I just wait until after the initial rush comes in and then try to buy it when it's at a lower price. But yeah, I think that's just a little bit too much for what I can afford. But hey, if you can, by all means, go ahead and get that stuff out and get that game. I think a lot of the other stuff that came out on this Direct was, it wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst I've ever seen. A lot of games that we already knew were coming out were announced. They were a lot of Star Wars stuff was also shown, so that was pretty cool. Not anything I would probably jump on. I would probably wait till it gets a little cheaper and then buy it. No physical versions probably for those games. And there were a couple of games as well that were cloud games. I cannot get a cloud game like that. Like, if I'm gonna buy that, I'll have to buy it physically on the console that it came out with. I just don't believe in the cloud game. I think it would just have a lot of stuttering, and maybe it's just me, but I just feel like the Nintendo Switch's Wi-Fi is not the best. And with games like that, you need a really good internet connection, especially if you're gonna be playing a graphically intense game. Online needs a good internet connection. It needs a good Wi-Fi connection. And I just don't think my Switch is pushing it like that. Maybe the Switch OLED with the LAN cable attached to it, different story. But yes, a lot of good that came out of this stuff. And there were a lot of news as well on expansion packs. There was an expansion pack that is being released for Monster Hunter. Not something that I would play because I don't have the game. And they did show a little bit more of the expansion pack for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. So that was pretty awesome that they showed some of that Zelda stuff. And then kind of, we already know that Zelda Breath of the Wild Part 2 isn't coming out till next year. They didn't show any of that at all. So they kind of just glazed over it. It was for the winter games as well. So kind of the stuff that's coming out, I guess, within winter, which expands into like what, February of next year. So we're looking at, I guess, from October, maybe December kind of ish, through maybe March of next year. So, and by March, we should have another Direct that would kick in what's coming in for that kind of spring, summertime. So it was a lot of good stuff though that was showing on here. It was pretty solid. As far as grades go, I mean, I don't believe too much in the grade stuff. I think if there was a lot of stuff that you liked, then you're gonna give it a good grade, right? You're gonna give it like an A or a B. If a lot of this stuff wasn't what you were looking for, you're gonna give it a D or an F. I'm kind of in the center. I'll give it a C. Because there were games that I wasn't interested in, there were games that I didn't care about, but there were some good things as well that did come out, especially the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass. I thought that was the highlight of the evening. I thought that was just super dope. So I definitely am excited for this stuff. I'm just worried about the cost. Just if you can keep it reasonable, Nintendo. I mean, if it was up to me, it would stay at $20 and they'll just add this to that, and that would make that like huge value. But they're not gonna do that. They're gonna keep their $20 tier because they already said it's an expansion pass that you can add on to your existing Nintendo Switch Online experience. So you're still gonna pay the $20 to get the cloud saves and all that, and the SNES games and all that. But this is the expansion pass. So now when you talk about pass, it's like a tacked on thing. So it's like an extra 10, $15. And that's what I'm concerned. If it's an extra $10, $30 for the year, then now we're talking. That's actually a pretty good value. I'm willing to pay that. But if they're talking about like this is gonna be like a $10 a month thing, that's a problem because that's $120 a year, and I could have bought solid games with that, new Switch games or new Xbox games that I could have spent money on that. So that's that kind of part I'm kind of nervous about. But yes, I would say a C because there were some things that I really liked and some things that I didn't care about. I think those were the main points for this. Yes, there were a bunch of games, a slew of games that were announced. So I'm gonna go ahead and link something down below so you guys can go ahead and see for the rest of the stuff that I kind of didn't talk over here, which was a lot. There is one thing I did not see, a Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge release date. It wasn't even talked about here. I thought we would hear something for some reason about this game on here. I'm really excited about this game, and like nobody's talking about it. We don't have a release date or anything. They said it was coming out on 2021 on the eShop, so it's kind of messed up that we haven't heard anything about that. But I guess patience is a virtue, so we'll wait for some solid games to come out. I'm excited to hear more about the future of the Nintendo 64 and Sega Genesis classic games on the Nintendo Switch. And as always, it's your boy Lazy Lightsaber. May the force be with you. You guys take care. Have a good one.
But I need you to stick with me just like some birds of feathers. Or like bricks and scales, hand in hand, dropping coin straight down the well. Wish me well, wish me well. Hey, always talking about the fish and scales, things that's gonna throw my mind off focus. Probably what's gonna get my